and with the help of one of the Egyptian gods.
One of the Egyptian gods. The god that also has a website where you can look up all the rules of Earth.
My favorite Egyptian god.
Archives of Nyx.
Hello, and welcome to the Tabletop Travel Guide, the podcast where we explore fictional worlds and civilizations right from the comfort of our own table. I'm Sam, and this week in sessions, I got to kick off my run of Stolen Fate that I conned everyone into after doing the spoiler guide here. So we had our first official sesh. I thought it went pretty well, as I think it's just always hard jumping in at high level, so everyone has a lot to kind of balance and figure out with characters, but I thought everybody did pretty good.
Yeah, everybody's kind of figuring it out. And I think people did make some more complex characters to some extent. Hi, I'm Tyler, and my favorite part about your session one was Greg.
Oh, absolutely.
So Greg was not there for session 0. And in session 0, we did the kind of like, how did all of us show up in Absalom? And so we kind of knew all our characters' names. And then the next week, I think it was like 2 weeks from there, Greg was very coy about what character he was playing. And then he shows up and he's playing a character. He never says his name, but like Greg plays the same type of character. And we all kept talking like, Greg, this feels like a character you've played before. Like you always play this type of character. And he's like, yeah, I mean, it's fine. And then eventually we ask what his name is, and he's like, it's Bastion. And we're like, wait a second. Bastion was the name of your character from Age of Ashes. And he's like, it's the same character. So when we did Age of Ashes, we stopped at book 3, right around like level 10 or level 11 or something. And then when we moved to Fist of the Ruby Phoenix, I gave everybody the option of switching to a new character or keeping their old character. And Andy and Letty kept their old character, but everybody else made a new character.
Yep.
So it's kind of funny to see Greg's character from the first campaign come back.
Yes. I was delighted when he was like, can I do this? And I was like, yeah, sure, why not? I did have a lot of fun with the kind of prep for that and like how everybody kind of gets pulled into the campaign since they aren't playing as a pre-existing team. So I'm excited to see how you all come together.
Yes, it will be interesting. I'm excited though. We are a bunch of feels like chaos gremlins.
Oh yeah, absolutely. It's
except
gonna be great.
Greg.
Yeah. Greg, very serious. Everybody else, very chaotic.
Very chaotic. It's fine.
Well, and once again, we are lacking the voice of Ryan.
We are.
But I think we maybe have something to prove that he does still exist. He's just not in our basement recording right now.
Yes, I said last episode, if Ryan did not come back this episode, I would have proof of life. And don't worry, everybody, all you fans of Ryan, I have proof of life. So let's hear it.
My name is Ryan. I am one of the podcast hosts of the lauded podcast Tabletop Travel Guide. I am here with my wonderful hosts, the Order of the Chain, here in Quarantine. And I have been instructed to tell all of you that I am happy, I am safe, I am being fed 3 meals a day, and the Hell Knights are treating me wonderfully and completely safely. Safe travels! Hey, wait, that's what I didn't say anything wrong! I didn't say anything wrong!
So Ryan will be back next episode, maybe.
Hopefully. I mean, what I've learned here is that man has a great falsetto that
does.
he's just not using enough with us.
Fantastic.
So I really don't think there's anything else to say. He's obviously very safe and fine and doing great.
Completely fine. We told you he was just taking a break. He has some stuff going on. He is answering for his crimes or his life. It's fine.
I really think the best part about that is apparently we are a lauded podcast.
We are lauded.
And not that was scripted and he was told to say anything at all, but if he was.
That wasn't scripted. He made that up himself.
We'll take the praise.
Yes.
All right. Well, everyone, reminder, you can join us on Discord. You can head to our Patreon page and join as a free member, and there's a link to our Discord there. If you want to check in and make sure Ryan's really alive, sometimes he says other things in there too. Things we misspoke. I don't think we have anything from last time.
I don't think so.
Or if there was, no one told us, and so therefore we can't be held accountable then. So today we are going to jump into an overview of our next area, which is exciting. We're going to get back into actual places for everybody. So Tyler has prepared for us some high-level stuff. So I'm excited. Tyler, take it away.
Yeah. So remind me, I was thinking about this. When we did the Mwangi overview, were you not there for that?
I was there for the Mwangi overview. I was not there for one or two of the country episodes.
Okay. I couldn't remember if all of us were here for the Mwangi overview.
Yeah, I got the overview because then even when I missed a country, I was like, why does that sound familiar?
That's fair. Okay, well, Ryan will just have to listen to the podcast like everybody else. Maybe they can print off the transcript and send it to the Hell Knights that he can read it.
There you go. So, or he can just come in wildly unprepared, and that's fun too.
Yeah. Without him, we are going to dive into the Golden Road. So this is the meta area that is on the northern part of Garund and the southern coast of the Inner Sea. So we spent a lot of time in Mwangi, which is kind of central Garund, and then we are going to the north. That kind of covers the west side from the Arch of Aroden all the way up around kind of the east edge of the Inner Sea up to the southern border of Taldor. So it also splits the Inner Sea, like kind of where it splits the Inner Sea and Casmaron. So kind of that up and around.
Yes, if you're thinking about a real Earth map, this area is southern Mediterranean. Places like Algeria,
yes,
northern coast of Africa. It is that same type of area on the other side of a sea.
Yeah, so it's literally that northern Africa, partially, well, literally Egypt, and then kind of over into the Middle East area. So the countries that make up the Golden Road are Rahadum, Thuvia, Osirian, Katapesh, and Qadira. And like I said, it goes from northern Africa, Egypt, Middle East, but kind of more ancient Persia-ish than...
I didn't see that you had that in your notes. I was just talking about
Yes.
Sorry, I got ahead of
She
Tyler.
got ahead of me.
Oops.
It's fine. Sam, if this is one area that Sam thrives in...
It's random geography.
That, but then also like Egypt. You love Egypt.
Oh,
so
that's true. I did get very nerdy about Egypt as a child, so it's fine.
Yes. So the kind of interesting thing about this area is it's almost a kind of tale of two eras.
Okay.
Many millennia ago, in the Age of Darkness, several large nations rose up, built a lot of the cities and infrastructure, and the current countries that live in there now will kind of still use these same buildings. So you might have a more modern country using millennia-old infrastructure.
Oh, so it's like the Roman Empire.
Yeah, exactly.
Kind of okay.
And like many empires in history, they fell for one reason or another.
Sure.
So since this is more of an overview episode, we're going to talk less about each country in detail, because obviously they'll have their own episode, and talk more about the history of the region as a whole and kind of what seeds were sown to create the modern countries we know today.
Love it.
So with that, let's dive into some ancient history.
Love some ancient history.
Our story starts over 10,000 years ago in the era brought in by our friend of the pod, Meteor.
Oh, the ye old friend.
Ye old friend, not our more recent friend of the pod, Aroden, our old friend, Earthfall and the Starstone.
Uh-huh.
And remember, the Age of Darkness came when the Starstone was brought down to kind of take out the Aslanti, and the meteor hit, turned all of the inner scene Glarain into a, darkened ashful area.
Would we say that in this, like, the Aslanti were the dinosaurs?
If the dinosaurs were getting power from, kind of deities, and then thought they were too big for those deities, and the deities were like, well, you're getting too big for your britches. We're going to call down a meteor on you.
Look, I wasn't there, so I can't say that that's not what happened with the dinosaurs.
Look, it is Tabletop Travel Guide's canon event that maybe the dinosaurs were more intelligent and were trying to usurp their deities that called down the meteor that killed the dinosaurs.
Look, we've been very wrong about dinosaurs. They might have been fluffy and covered in feathers. They might have also been demigods with powers. We don't know.
We don't know.
We weren't there.
Come at us. You don't know what happened. But anyway, so for thousands of years after Earthfall, humans survived in small bands and villages, but beyond that, nothing even getting close to a city, let alone an empire, rose for many a time. And remember, this Earthfall happened around, minus 52 something AR. But after 1,000 years, in minus 4120 AR, all that changed when an empire known as the Gistka Imperium was founded. And an empire rose from the desert in what is now Rahadum.
And we've talked about the Gistka Imperium before a little bit.
A little bit.
Okay.
I think we've mentioned them as we were kind of going around the Mwangi. We probably talked about automatons at some point because the automatons have risen from, were created by the Gistka.
Okay.
If you're familiar with that ancestry. So we've probably discussed something about them just because, again, like I said, a lot of the architecture.
Well, if they're also an empire, they've expanded farther out.
Yeah.
But this is their origin.
This is their origin story.
So nice. We actually get to talk about where they started.
Right? We won't go into too much detail about them. They might have their own episode at some point, but just kind of a bit of an overview of their vibe. The Gistka Imperium lasts from minus 4120 to minus 2764 AR.
Okay.
So we're looking at 1,300 years.
Gosh, I really hate negative years.
Yeah.
I understand that we all chose to do this as a timeline, both in the real world and then in adventures. But gosh, couldn't we just start at 0 somewhere and just keep counting up?
Keep counting up.
It is hard to do subtraction.
Math is hard. Well, in its early era, it started out as an imperialistic monarchy that focused on expansion and technological advancement.
Sure.
It was home to powerful magistrates who made pacts with extraplanar beings, but kind of the majority like genies.
Okay.
And on one side you had the magistrates, on the other side you had the artificers who summoned elementals themselves and popped them into constructs.
Okay.
So it's kind of a power between the mages and the tech.
Okay. So when you say magistrates, you mean magical people, not judges.
Yeah.
Okay.
I mean, they could have been judges, but
we're talking about magic, not like a judicial system.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. They didn't law the genies into.
Look, I don't know. I think that if you sign this contract, you'll be very pleased.
I mean, that would be pretty. I feel like genies themselves are pretty.
They're making pacts, right?
They're making pacts and contracts. So if you can out-contract a genie, they deserve it. Out-lawyered. So at the height of its power, the footprint of the empire expanded, and you have it expanded kind of across where Rahadum is, Thuvia, and started pushing into where Osirian is.
Okay.
But at this point, you kind of have a power struggle between the artificers. They built their factories in southern Avestan. Oh, and they also moved up towards Avestan.
Yes.
In southern Avestan, and the magistrates who continued to build their allegiances with the extraplanar beings in northern Garund. So that you kind of have across the inner sea type rivalry. And as kind of a lot of empires that just are around for so long, they start kind of getting top heavy and weighed down by all the BS, weighed down by crap. So in the twilight years of this empire, it became weakened by constant clashes between the factions. There was, corruption from the high society of the Jiskin high society. For a long time, it was, basically like kind of like a meritocracy.
Okay.
So the most capable people ended up in leadership.
Sure.
But as it grew and became, kind of weighed down, then they started kind of turning
Becoming more nepotism.
Yeah, Nepo babies started showing up all over the place. And we all know about Nepo babies.
Some are fine.
Some are fine. Some suck.
Yes.
But kind of became it kind of had this kind of cycle of inner corruption situation. Okay. Unfortunately, during this time, unfortunately for the Imperium, that some powerful neighbors started to rise up.
Dun, 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 dun.
Dun, dun, in minus 3470. So kind of about halfway.
Yeah, like that midway
that
point.
midway point of the Imperium. A follower of Nethys united the warring tribes along the Sphinx River.
AKA the Nile.
Literally.
Look, I think it's hilarious when we just take things from real life and we're like, we'll just rename them.
Yeah.
Like, obviously, Pathfinder builds out things to a lot greater detail, but it's just funny when the blueprint is very clearly like this thing.
Yeah. When you have a lot of places that are inspired by, this is this plagiarism? Would we say this is basically Egypt?
I'm not
legally
sure if you
distinct
can,
Egypt?
Yeah, I don't think you can plagiarize a country.
I mean, I don't know.
Or a landmark? I don't know. It's just funny.
Well, that follower united all the tribes and, with the help of Nethys himself, became the first pharaoh.
Is that how the first pharaoh becomes the first pharaoh too in ancient Egypt mythology as well? I'm gonna have to look that up.
I don't know. Yeah,
I'm like, is
is
that the story as well, that they united all of the tribes and with the help of one of the Egyptian gods?
One of the Egyptian gods. The god that also has a website where you can look up all the rules of Earth.
My favorite Egyptian god.
Archives of Nyx. Well,
that would be hilarious.
Under this pharaoh, Osirian grew in power and size under successive god kings to the point where it spread across the land that is now Osirian, Geb, so into the Impossible Lands, Nex, Katapesh, and into Thuvia. So you kind of have that border between the two empires of the Gistic Imperium and Osirian, kind of pushing that border in Thuvia.
Sure.
The interesting thing is Osirian had some powerful necromancers who were able to enslave many of the genies that the Jiskins relied on. Because at this point, genies were kind of just breaking their packs because they're like, we're tired of your crap.
Oh, fair.
But, they were forced to fight against Osirian, and Osirian would take them out and then undead enslave the genies, which, isn't great.
Yeah.
So, as we know, necromancers are pretty good at keeping a standing army.
Keeping it tight.
What up, Geb? Keeping it tight. So at the same time, within 200 years of Osirian showing up, in minus 3250, you have the Tekritanen. That sounds right. The Tekritanen League.
Sure.
This group of people, while the Gistic Imperium was already super powerful in the west and Osirian's growing in the east, the people in Thuvia at this point are kind of like a number of just nomadic bands, and they're like, we gotta join together because we have these two empires forcing on either side.
Yeah.
And they united in the area that is now Thuvia and called themselves the Tekritanen League. And rather than one large empire, the League was largely decentralized, self-autonomous group of city-states, which still traded with their neighbors, but kind of defended their main borders from the ever-expanding empires. So they were just kind of like, we'll trade with you, but stop expanding into our land.
They had to band together to create some boundaries.
Yeah. So there's kind of a long time of conflict for, close to another 600-ish, 400 to 600 years. Eventually, Osirian and the League decided to team up to take out the weakened Jistka.
Naturally.
In its end date of minus 2764. And the Empire was overthrown with the area to be taken over by Osirian.
Okay.
So at this point, everything kind of became like the Jistka Imperium area on the southern side became Osirian.
Okay.
Unfortunately for the League, they were then betrayed and defeated by Osirian in minus 1452. So it was...
So they had a little bit of
They had a while.
fine
Yeah.
run of it.
Yeah, they had a good run, but curse your sudden but inevitable betrayal.
That took 1,000 years.
Yeah, 1,300 years. I mean, it is kind of funny when you think of the just history, the ancient history of Galarian, where they're we're not going to fill in everything. So you're like, soon they fought, and then they were betrayed, and you're like, well, I mean, 1,300 years is still a pretty good run.
Yeah, is it even a betrayal at that point? Were they even friends still?
Yeah.
We don't know.
I don't remember, my friends 1,300 years ago.
Yeah. Wow.
Yeah.
Your
At that
friends
point-
from 1,300 years ago would be really disappointed in that title.
I know.
Jeez.
If you're listening to this pod, friends from 1,300 years ago, I apologize. The kind of next stage for a while, so Osirian's just vibing, growing in power, doing all that stuff. So let's fast forward another 3,000 years, and Osirian actually falls prey to a lot of the same top heaviness that plagued Jistka.
Ah, jeez.
Yeah.
They didn't even learn.
Yeah, at this point, you just gotta, once you start hiring middle managers and upper middle managers and senior upper middle managers, like things just get very crazy.
Didn't Pharaoh know that he needed to just be absolute power and that's it?
Right. Or like hire some consultants, man. Do some efficiency experts.
Oh, there you go.
Well, so its power, kind of waned over this, next 3,000 years until a surprise third empire, the Empire of Kelish, which currently controlled the nearby Katira, decided that Osirian would be a great overseas expansion opportunity.
So the Empire of Kelish is controlled by Kadira?
Kadira Empire, the Kelish Empire controls Kadira. So the Kelish Empire is a massive empire in Casmaron.
Okay.
And remember, Casmaron is kind of the
So the Empire is Kelish, and then Kadira right now is the location.
Kadira is
the people.
a city. It is a region controlled by the Empire. So it is not like the Kelish Empire controls the vast majority of Casmaron.
Okay.
But it's has a foothold into Avestan in Kadira.
Okay.
And, there's not too much information on Kelish Empire just because it's in Casmaron, and Paizo doesn't go there that often.
Sure.
We just know it's next to Avestan.
Yep.
And, I think Cyclopses were there at some point. But that's for another episode. So in 1532, AR, so we're, on the positive side of Aridin,
Woo!
the Kelishite agents instigated some slave revolts that ended in an overthrow of the current pharaoh.
Okay.
To be replaced by a Kadiran satrap. I think I'm pronouncing that right. It's kind of like a leader.
Okay. Some other leader type for them.
Different leader.
Okay.
And Osirian would remain under some form of foreign rule for another 3,000 years.
Dang.
Right? They reap what you sow, Osirian. This is what happens when you betray the League. I don't know.
Or maybe build an empire on slave labor.
Yeah, that's
That's
also
probably
not great.
that's probably where the downfall happened.
That's also where the downfall happened. Dang you, God Kings. But in the meantime, there were a few other events that sowed the seeds of the modern countries in the Golden Road. So let's talk about those. So before Kadira takes over Osirian,
Okay.
one of the provinces that got absorbed into Osirian from the League was named Thuvia.
Yes.
We'll get into the history of Thuvia in another episode, but it gained a lot of power that would grow it into the country it is today in 1140 when an alchemist discovered the Sun Orchid Elixir.
Ooh.
So we've talked about this one before. This is basically the immortality elixir.
Yes.
And the single export that comes out of
I
Thuvia.
mean, when you've really achieved the most, you don't need to do anything else.
Yeah. You have the one thing you're known for
That
is
everybody wants.
Yeah.
And will continue to want.
Yeah, and it's not even like you can't even have the generic version. I mean, I guess maybe Lichdom is the generic of Sun Orchid Elixir. But that seed is, we discovered this thing, and then that's just, they leverage that to go from a province to its own country at some point.
Sure.
In 2216, 700 years after Osirian gets absorbed, a rise of a group of adventurers called the Templars of the Five Winds protected tribes in the area that would become Katapesh.
Okay.
So before then, it was kind of a, again, nomadic tribes situation and like a lot of danger around the area. But this group of adventurers kind of protected and kept around long enough to turn it into kind of a settlement that would grow.
Sure.
In 2560, so another 300 years after that, the ending of a conflict called the Oath Wars, which are really cool, but we're not going to talk about those today. They would usher in the area that is now Rahadum.
Okay. What was Rahadum before? Because I know we said like Thuvia was in the, this area. So was Rahadum also one that was part of the Jitska Imperium?
So at this point in time, I think Rahadum was technically part of Osirian still.
Okay.
So remember, Rahadum's on the far west of the Inner Sea, the Arch of Eridan that kind of covers the entrance. Like Rahadum's connected to that one. So it was the Jistka Imperium for a while. When Osirian beat the Jistka Imperium, it got absorbed into Osirian. So it's like technically Osirian now, but Osirian's technically Kelish.
It just keeps getting overrun by other empires.
Yeah.
Okay.
Fast forward another 1,200 years. In 3725, Katapesh Part 2 really solidifies itself into a country by these mysterious beings called the Pact Masters. Showed up literally out of nowhere. They took over the city and established it into the powerful nation we know today.
Man, that's one way to do it. Just show up and be like, taking over.
Yeah.
Successfully.
Right? Yeah, no, everyone's just kind of like, wait, where did these people come from? And they showed up. They were good at their jobs and took over. And finally, another, 900 years after that, a prince in Osirian who could trace his lineage back to the ancient pharaohs overthrew the current Kelishite Sultan, and Osirian finally became an independent nation once again.
Wow. Okay.
Yeah, so the Golden Road as it stands today, the modern countries, like all independent, didn't fully happen until like less than 100 years ago.
So wait, when did Osirian gain its independence?
4609.
Okay.
So it's like a little over 100 years ago.
Okay. So that is pretty recent.
Yeah. Obviously, and they were there way before, but
I still think it's just hilarious that like I had a pharaoh far back in the bloodline. Let me be a ruler. Okay,
Let me be a ruler. He pulls out the long scroll of his heritage.
Right. Please ignore this one over here that says I am also related to this other person that does nothing cool.
It's fine.
Just focus on the pharaoh.
I'm a pharaoh. Let's talk about it. Now that we've talked about the history of how the area that is the Golden Road came to be, we'll talk a little bit about what's going on here now before we, as a little teaser of the episodes to come. So, contrasted with the ancient sprawling empires vying for land, nations now make up the Golden Road are full of cosmopolitan cities, markets full of curiosity for sale around Galarian. Scholars are researching modern science and magic, kind of that throwback to the Jistka Imperium. Hilariously, in buildings that are probably from the Jistka Imperium.
Probably.
And the entire economy of the Golden Road is trade-based for the most part.
Sure.
Two big reasons for this are due to Qadira and Katapesh serving as endpoints of two different intercontinental trade routes.
Right.
So Qadira Qadira has the Golden Path, which when I'm doing this is going to mean nothing to you, but in like stupid corporate development crap, I don't know if this is just where I work, but anytime you talk about like what's the proper technology to use, we have the term like Golden Path. And so I was
That
reading
sounds
this.
so dumb.
It's so dumb. It's like, here's the golden path of how you develop a end-to-end website. And I'm like, this is stupid. Anyway, so if there's any other corporate bros out there or corporate girlies, let me know if you also have the golden path at your office. But anyway, so the golden path, this trade route that ends in Kandira, it connects Avestan with Casmaron.
Okay.
So any trade between the continents comes through the golden path,
Sure.
which, makes
Yes.
Kandira real rich.
Lots of dollars.
Yeah, it starts in Kandira and ends in Vudra, which
Okay.
is a peninsula on the south side of Casmaron that's basically the size of Avestan itself.
Dang.
Yeah. So Katapash on the other side has the South Tack. So this trade route that connects it is a sea route. So instead of a land route, it's a sea route. And it starts in Katapash, runs along the southern coast of the Inner Sea all the way to the Arch of Eridan. And then it turns south, ending in the capital of Rahadum, Azir.
Okay.
So obviously that handles most of the trade in the Inner Sea. Katapash is also very wealthy. The Packmasters know what they're doing.
Yeah.
Even though Katapash, until modern, we'll talk about it. It's fine. Not the greatest place. We talked a little bit about it in the Age of Ashes, spoiler, but
Well, and we talked a little bit about Katapesh in Stolen Fate and that spoiler guide too, because
Yeah.
that was also a brief interlude.
yeah,
over
spoiler,
there.
they're big into slaves. It's not great.
Yeah.
And then besides the large trade routes, they also, each kind of country has their own export to distinguish themselves. Osirian is known for exporting magical knowledge and rare antiquities.
Ah, yes, sounds like Egypt.
Yeah. Legally distinct Egypt is very known for magical knowledge and rare antiquities. You have Rahadum, which exports technology and basically amazing engineers that are second to none.
Oh, okay.
So Rahadum is very kind of not anti-magic, but anti-religion. So they
okay.
lean heavy into the engineering science
Okay.
type of side. And then you have Thuvia, whose main export, like we said, is the Sun Orchid Elixir, and that's it. But
Yeah.
it
But
works
it's working for them.
It
so
works for them. They got one thing. They do one thing, and they do very well.
That's fair.
Vertical integration of the Sun Orchid Elixir.
Stop it using corporate terms.
is-
Enough.
Says, look, corporate trade, synergies.
Boo. Stupid word.
Yeah. There's also I think it's in Rahadum. It's like a path. It's called the Path of Salt. It's like both a kind of arid desert land. So a lot of the Golden Road, most of the cities are on the coast
Okay.
because it's a lot of desert. So
Well, and trade and
yeah,
things
trade.
Like that.
So there's, plenty of land in all of these countries that's just barren desert,
Sure.
which makes sense. And one of these paths is called the Path of Salt, but it's also a trade route. So, that's just hanging out there.
Yeah, sometimes you do have to go across the desert.
Yes, exactly. Finally, even though all the nations rely heavily on trade with each other as part of their economies, that doesn't mean there aren't conflicts that arise.
Of course not.
So between the current nations, you have conflicts between Rahadum and Thuvia. Rahadum and Thuvia are at odds due to Rahadum's strict anti-religion stance and Thuvia's following of Sarenrae. They're big into the Dawnflower. Rahadum, big
Not-
anti-Dawnflower
Yeah,
and all
wow.
deities.
Wow.
Yeah.
So rude.
Haters. Sarenrae's great. Thuvia is conflicting with a lot of greedy people.
Oh,
So
okay.
because they're the home of the Sun Orchid Elixir,
Sure.
it is often looked as a good option for conquest.
Ow.
And so it kind of just naturally looks at everybody else pretty distrustfully because
Right.
everyone's trying to get the secret.
Yeah. They're
Yeah.
like, hey, get out of my neighborhood.
Yeah.
You're
The-
only here to exploit me.
Right? The secret recipe of Coke is very heavily protected against other corporate.
Yes.
Yeah. Osirian has some skepticism towards Kadira due to its previous occupation. So while it's not
Sure.
outright hostilities, they're like shady,
Yeah.
of course. Katapesh is mostly all about money,
Mm-hmm.
but since recently you have the international anti-slavery sentiments across all the Inner Sea,
Mm-hmm.
it's kind of becoming more difficult for them to trade
Hmm.
just because they're still solidly slave. Like I believe even though Paizo has kind of stepped back from talking about it,
Yeah.
which is fair and valid, I think like Katapesh is still,
So while Paizo has stepped back from highlighting that,
Yeah.
they also have not rewritten it
Yeah.
to make it, or
It-
they haven't written it out of these countries.
out of Katapesh specifically, because like, in Cheliax, it's like, oh, they're all indentured servants now or whatever.
Right.
And like they've shifted a lot of the situations around. Katapesh is still kind of I think blatantly
Yeah.
about it.
Yeah.
But obviously that's causing some issues with all the other countries it trades with.
Sure.
Because it's not cool. And then Qadira just wants money.
Okay.
They are here to get paid. They could not care less about differing politics or beliefs as long as there is a deal to be made. So
okay.
they're just like, give me money, I'll give you money. Let's trade.
All right.
Yeah. So that kind of wraps up the overview of the Golden Road.
Cool.
Yeah, we didn't get obviously too much into the detail since all other episodes, but I think being able to talk about the overall history is really going to help with some good context and foundations.
Sure.
Especially because I think, we've talked about some cities that have, or some countries that have been built off the ruins of ancient cities. But this entire area, more so than most, literally has millennia of infrastructure just like chilling.
Well, and there's a lot of overlap,
Yeah.
too, because all of the histories are kind of tied together at that ancient base. So I think it makes sense, too, to look back at that like really far back lens for all of them. And then as we get closer to current day, then you get to focus in a little bit more on specific areas.
Yeah.
So I always like that.
Yeah. And it's just kind of cool to see the, dichotomy of the ancient just empires fighting and conflicting and trying to, steal each other's land to now where it's just all trade.
Yeah.
And obviously there's still conflicts, but the kind of difference of how the countries interact.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Very cool. Well, obviously, I get to do the episode on Assyrian so that I can be really annoying about legally distinct Egypt.
Yes. And you will have to, you have to prep for it by playing Pharaoh.
Oh, man, I could. Woo! If anybody played the old school game Pharaoh in the late 90s, early 2000s on the PC, please let me know. I also found the reboot of it, and I have it on my computer, and it's still excellent.
Delightful.
And also very difficult. So
And also hard.
I'm not doing well, but it's fine.
Not doing well, but we're having fun.
I can't remember if anybody else, and by anybody else, I mean if you or Ryan claimed any of the other things. On
I don't
Golden
think
Road or
so.
not.
I mean, I feel like Ryan would probably like Rahadoom.
Probably.
You
Lots
know,
of engineering things.
here for Thuvia or something.
Yeah.
And we'll see.
All right. Well, thanks everyone for riding along with us for this overview of the Golden Road. We will move into specific areas from here. Hopefully we'll get Ryan back for some actual countries. If not, we'll make somebody else
Yeah,
talk to us.
I think what we'll have to do, because if we can take a trip up to Cheliax, get Ryan out, then we could just kind of cross over the area where the Arch of Eridan is, and then come into Rahadoum from there.
Oh, yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah, I think that would probably
If
work.
someone could prepare us a teleport to get over to Cheliax first, I think that would really speed us along.
Yeah, we will be in the market for a teleport,
Yeah.
and maybe some higher level disguise self. What other good shape stone, maybe that could be good. I'm not sure what the barracks look like that he's the prison he's going to be in.
He said he was fine to getting 3 meals a day. I don't know what you're talking about. It's
That's
probably a very fancy Red Roof Inn.
Chili's put their prisoners in like a Super 8. Look, you're living, not necessarily thriving.
Yeah. So, we'll find Ryan and make our way back. For all of our listeners, just a reminder to join us on Discord. There's a link in the show notes or on our website, or search us on Tabletop Travel Guide Podcast. If you are enjoying the podcast, please leave us a rating or review on Spotify or Apple Podcasts. Also, tell your friends. Get them into the lore as much as you are, so everybody can be really nerdy together. because it's more fun to do with your friends.
Nerds love company.
It's true. Feel free to reach out to us via email at tabletoptravelguidepodcast@gmail.com or on our Instagram at tabletoptravelguide with feedback, or pop in the Discord if you just want to say hey and hang out a little bit. And until next time, safe travels.